Support Narrative's independent journalism at patreon.com/narrative and check out our podcast wherever you get your podcasts. And don't forget to subscribe and download. Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to the show. I don't know why that music's playing so loudly, but there you go. What I was actually trying to do is hide our guest. It's just you and me, Greg. Hi.
Hi, Zeb.
How are you good? How you doing? It's good to be with you.
I'm well.
People can tell by looking at the picture that it's all gone awry, but we're going to fix that in a second. I don't know what happened to Eric Garland. He was just there, so we'll wait for him to come back to us. In the meantime, we've spent a lot of time here on this show over the last few weeks talking about Ghislaine Maxwell. We have an update on that tonight. And she just filed her bail stuff, I guess, which will be interesting to go through in a bit. And we also spent a lot of time on this show talking to a very special person that we all love dearly. Her name is LB. And we've never really had a chance to see what she looks like in the flesh, so to speak. But tonight, for the first time, I believe that we have an actual video feed from LB's secret lair, where she's based in California. And so that little box that now says special report in it, he's going to disappear in a second as I press all these buttons. And ta-da! There she is, everybody, for the first time ever.
Hi, everyone.
On Narrative. That is what Lincoln's Bible really looks like. Not bad.
This is me.
Not bad. So, hi. You've had a day today, haven't you?
I've had a day today.
Yeah.
It's okay. It's okay. I'm happy to be here with you guys.
It's good
really
to be with you too.
Yeah.
We're going to talk a lot about the day. We're going to talk a lot about what we think is going to happen in the future. We're going to wait for Eric to rejoin us. I hope he does sometime soon. I don't know what happened to him. But for the start of the show, we should do something I used to do a while ago. It is called Starting Block. So Ghislaine Maxwell's bail thing happened today. She applied her lawyers, and she has two of them, two very interesting lawyers. I'll show you pictures of them in a second. They responded to the bail. I need Eric for this because he's the one who really studied up on this. But there is a bail application that's going on. Next Tuesday, they'll do a hearing about whether she gets bail. Many people consider her a flight risk for obvious reasons.
No way. She would never.
Well,
She would never.
She's also on suicide watch, which she made too, judging by past colleagues of hers and what they've done. But she may never. You know what, guys? I am a little tongue-tied because I've got so much going on in this show tonight, and I need a little drink of water, so I'm going to do that. And in the meantime, I'm going to let...
oh, good, we can drink now.
Yeah, you can drink. Time to drink, everybody.
I don't know where my drink is. I'm waiting on my drink.
Okay, there you go.
Someone brings you the drink. That's fancy.
I know.
Someone brings me the drink.
We were testing the shot earlier on, and LB was like, "Where's my vodka? Where's my vodka? Bring me my vodka."
It just has been a long day. I'm sorry. I sound like a lush on this show.
No.
We're always talking about it, but I promise. Yeah, you know me.
We know you really well. We don't think you're a lush in any way whatsoever.
Thanks, guys.
Oh. So let me show you a little bit about what happened today, and I'm going to pull these up because otherwise I won't know myself. The bail hearing started, is going to be on Tuesday, as I said, but here is the details of what happened in court today. So they officially have said that the indictment, she was indicted on 6 charges, was a meritless indictment. They also say that she plans to vigorously denies the charges and intends to also fight them and is entitled to the presumption of innocence, which, it's possible.
Sorry.
It's possibly true.
She is.
She's entitled
That's
to
our
that.
system.
We do have that system. And it's a $5 million bond that her lawyers are requesting. And she remains in detention right now at the Brooklyn Metropolitan Detention Center, where she will be until July 14th, and then she'll have that bail hearing and we'll find out whether she gets out. So that's the upshot of what happened today. Now, Eric's here, so he can help fill in the gaps of some of what I've just said. Let's pull in Eric and... that's the wrong one. Thanks. There we go. Eric's here. Hello,
It's
Eric.
the right one.
You're the right
Hello.
one. You are the right one. So, Eric, welcome back. It's nice to see you. We were just
It's nice to be back.
We were just talking about what happened with Ghislaine Maxwell's. I guess her lawyers applied for. I don't know what they do. They apply for a bail thing.
Yes,
and then
it's a motion for bail so that she can get out of detention. And the government has said, no, we think she's a flight risk, because spies are like that. They're kind of tricky.
They can be tricky.
They're like, well, she has 20 million sitting around, and we're not quite sure how many bank accounts she might have.
Right.
Oh, sorry, in one account. And
In one account,
can
20
we just do this? This is our Friday night kind of thing. She's a spy. They're spies.
She's a
She's
spy.
They're finally. 25 years she's been rolling around doing all this stuff. She's a spy. Nail her down. But hey, they get to ask. They're attorneys. They get to do it. So.
Right. So it's $5 million they've asked. Her family in the United Kingdom has said that they'll secure the bail. She's got some property over there, and she's obviously got some other property. By the way, she lives in a very, very luxurious lifestyle. I don't know if you guys have had a chance to see her little hideaway, which she has spent the last few months hiding in New Hampshire, near Manchester on the Sea. You guys want to take a quick look at what it looks like to be an escaped or a runaway fugitive in the United States when you have that much money? This is her lovely place. I spent a little time looking through the real estate listings that they have, and here is what it looks like. Here's what it looks like. Isn't this lovely? Very nice.
Camping out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what? I was thinking that she probably watched Breaking Bad and realized that Walter White went to New Hampshire when he was on the run. So maybe she should go to New Hampshire, except that this place is a lot nicer than where Walter White was staying.
Yeah. Where did he stay? Wasn't he in a camper or something? Or did he have...
It's like a little crappy little cabin. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Wasn't good.
I mean, look, it's a lovely place. Her ex-boyfriend lives near there in Manchester by the Sea. He has a little company that apparently tracks all these cargo shipments around the world. And I don't know who he sells that data to. Also, why are you laughing? Why are you laughing? It could
no
just
reason at all.
It's just a good business for the average person. You know, they might want to have that kind of business. And look at this lifestyle that it affords them. So they're no longer dating, apparently, but she somehow decided to live very close to him in this luxurious place for the last few months while awaiting a trial or getting captured, which now has done. Nice place, though, right? I wouldn't mind spending it. Spending money and time there. Money and time would be nice to spend over there. They said that it was so private you could not see anything from the road as you were driving by, and no one could spot you. So
no one can spot.
No one can hear you scream.
Yes.
Can I do a New Englander rant about this real quick?
Yes, go for it.
I'll do my accent. I never do my accent to a Sherm, so I'm from Vermont originally. And let's just disabuse anyone of a few notions. If you got 165 acres in northern New England, guess what? You're on the grid. Oh, is there a gate there? Guess what? Everybody in those hills has been living there 250 years.
Yes, that's
and
right.
Somebody's got to bring you the cedar bark mulch for that landscaping, or you need a hole in the drywall. Guess what? The excavators know each other. The drywall people know each other. The landscapers know each other. So there's a lot of wealthy people that go up to try and hide and live a nice lifestyle. But, if you have a 165-acre place, everybody around you knows who you are. And if you're on TV, for example, like being connected to Jeffrey Epstein, and you're kind of missing, and you go up to New Hampshire or Vermont or Maine to hide, you're not hiding.
Right.
And that's not even the FBI or NSA with a FISA warrant. That's just the landscapers have you busted. So I just found that funny this week.
She actually, the building that we just saw is not on the satellite maps that Google provides. People were saying online this week that was suspicious, because when you look at the Google satellite maps, it's like a tiny little, black and white structure there, not this gorgeous house. So maybe
NGA has the map, though. NGA,
you think,
National
right?
Geospatial Intel has
probably
a good.
There's probably several satellites parked on top of that particular spot for a while since they found out where she was going. What else can we tell you about Ghislaine that had happened this week? So she'll be in court on the next Tuesday.
And Bastille Day.
Bastille Day.
And forever.
And forever. And I think that Roger Stone also checks in for prison on that day.
Mm-hmm.
And
correct.
and married Trump book.
Oh, that was the third thing, right?
So it's a big day.
Viva Liberté!
Speaking of
And it's
the
birthday of the
French.
person who brought me this drink.
Oh, is it really?
We have a lot to celebrate. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy birthday to the nameless one, or not the nameless one. Was he the voiceless one?
Not voiceless, just silent.
The silent one. Oh, similar.
Silently watching it all.
So let's look a little bit further because we like this kind of real estate porn, and let's take a look at the lifestyle of Ghislaine Maxwell from another perspective. This is her home in New York. This is the townhome in New York. Looks quite nice, don't you think? This is the interiors, obviously, nice red and black and white. It's a little sexy, a little daring.
It's actually making me nauseous. I have to say, this is nauseating.
Because
it's fine. I love it, but I'm having a reaction to this, and it's not just the wealth; it's just the audacity of it all. Of I'm still, in this elite set, and it's the seduction is still there.
Right, absolutely.
It's appalling.
And it doesn't feel like she's going to change that tone as she's negotiating right now with all the prosecutors. There's some sort of negotiation apparently underway, and I suspect that what's happening is she's still using all the leverage that she has, which might include some blackmail tapes, to make sure that she gets off and continues this lifestyle going forward. And it is an astonishing lifestyle that she had. I mean, it's a 7,000 square foot place, 5 floors. You can see the rest of it there. But
is that what she's always been, Zeb? Is that what Jeffrey bought for her?
Well, this is a really interesting.
Or his brother? Wasn't it his brother?
He bought it for her, and he bought it from someone who was also really interesting because he bought it from none other than Lynn Forrester. Let's take a look at this.
Oh, that's right, from the Rothschild.
Right. So
how's she doing out there?
Well, she must be thinking she's a little bit of trouble soon.
She might be.
So in 2000,
not even talking. Imagine how. I'm sorry, Zeb.
No, go ahead.
But imagine how many of these people have been having to have interviews or have interviews coming for them. I do want to say, because there's a similar dynamic out here with a certain group that will recognize me now. If I kept trying to say to people, maybe you should not have these people in your phones, and maybe you should not be talking to these criminals or these folks that I know they were in your social set, but there's kind of inauguration fund issues around them. Maybe not have your kids go be with their kids. I do find that just the general public, and even in these very elite, wealthy groups of celebrity and power that Ghislaine swam in and others, there's a carelessness and an ignorance it's stunning to me. It's just stunning to me. Like, don't get on that yacht. What are you doing? Getting on that mob oligarch's yacht. What are you thinking? So I'm curious of like the Rothschilds of the world, right? Of this little set of, I just can't imagine that these folks are still so stupid, but I think they are about their phones and their own sort of lifestyles and who they allow into their homes. And it's just, it still blows me away.
Well, there's so much money floating around with people like the Rothschilds and, the Blavatniks over in your part of the world, where they're funding so much, they're funding so much that you'll end up, you have to be in their social circle to get that money. And that's really what it comes down to.
You do. And they take you in if they see that you have a proximity to money or you have money yourself, because it is, as we talked about, it is a world of seduction. So even without that money, Jeffrey and Ghislaine would not have been able to do anything they did. They wouldn't have had access to anybody. You can't really just go off your dad's name. I've seen people try it. I have them in my family.
I know a few people have done quite well doing that, but I mean, at the end of the day,
you can do it only so far. But you can't get President Clinton on your jet. It's just not going to happen. You have to have the jet. You have to have the island. You have to have a image that you're selling that this is the inner sanctum of money and power. And so you need to be my friend, everybody. If you're Jeffrey Epstein or Ghislaine, you need to be with us because we'll show you what to do with your money. We'll show you how you can have what we have. You'll next thing you know, you'll be having, you'll be hanging out on the weekend with a prince.
You need all
That's
that.
what this is.
So I'm going to go.
You have to have that money. That's why the money's so important.
Eric, I think you're going to jump in there.
Important.
Yeah, I was just thinking.
Was anything in her stuff today that was about the money, Eric? Did anything come out other than she's a flight risk and this one bank account? Was there anything else in there?
I mean, that was all that really came up was that she would, all they're trying to prove at court is that you have significant financial resources, possibly hard to measure, and that you might have 8 passports and 9 names, and that makes you flight risk because you're a spy. Right. But as far as the social stuff in all these different places and why you might need a lot of money for this, the people, thoughtlessly putting various folks in their phones and having them in their homes. I think there's a lot of innocence if you are not aware of how the espionage world works, which most people are not. Right. And everybody, even people who would otherwise have a big ego about, well, I'm very important, but they would go, well, I'm not so important that a nation state would take interest in me. And they don't understand how what's called spot and assess works, where, human intelligence agents will be scanning colleges for these people's kids and starting files on them when they're 19, looking at their proclivities, their habits, their sexual preferences, how much they drink, and getting that all down, especially if they already have a famous, parent, or if they have a lot of skill that they're a genius at something. That a file might start with about you as an individual from a nation state intelligence service when you're 19 or 20 and you're not important yet. That's the whole point. These guys are thinking decades out, and they can do 1,000 people. And as long as they get 4 that they got something good on that end up as comptroller of some big corporation or senator.
Well, yeah, exactly.
That's worth the effort.
We are not really a meritocracy. And so, these kids, we're all let's just be very in the vain side of thing, in the really catty side of thing. You can see a 5'6", kind of attractive kid of a celebrity is all of a sudden a supermodel walking down a runway. And it's like, what is this? An influencer, social media influencer. So, that comes with the territory of having parents who are famous, who have access to something, and they all want their kids to have some kind of success somewhere. We'll even lie on the SATs and get invited. Yes, we're special. So yeah, they might think that they're 19, 20, even 25, depending on how powerful the parent is, that kid is just
a target themselves.
Not a target, but they very well may be.
It's interesting because
and the parents are absolutely targets, and they're having these folks over. Oh, this is this nice person from what country are you from again? But they've got lots of money, and they're like, well, we're targets. Of course, you're targets. You're influential. You have a lot of money.
Well, especially if you have a famous last name, right? If you have a famous last name.
And speaking of famous last names, I can actually say that actually it's the Rothschild's child who was part of Ghislaine's ocean charity. He ran a big portion of Ghislaine's oceans charity. So, the Rothschilds are actually quite close to the Maxwells and also to Epstein. And I'll just quickly go through the sales prices here because it is revealing to me that Lynn Forrester, before she was married, bought the mansion for $4.75 million. 5 years later, she sells it to Ghislaine through one of Jeffrey Epstein's private LLCs. And she only makes $200,000 off it instead of the $8 million she could have made if she actually sold it at market price, which to me is telling that this is not your typical real estate transaction between two people. This is some sort of favor being done for somebody else.
2005 is the height of the market too.
Yeah.
That's when the market was like peaking in New York City.
Right.
She left $13 million on the table, which even for a Rothschild must be a significant enough amount of money not to want to do unless you've got a good reason to do it. And then now it got sold in 2015 to Frederick and Kim Rudd, who are developers in real estate in New York. So $10 million of their profit went to Ghislaine. But something else happened in those years between 2007 and 2011, which we talked about last time, which is there's this $20 million that were transferred in and out of Ghislaine's accounts and Jeffrey Epstein's accounts. They went from Jeffrey to Ghislaine and then went back to Jeffrey. $20 million worth of who knows what money disappeared in and out of those accounts for 4 years between 2007 and 2011, which is, by the way, the years where we're not quite sure where his banking was. It was before Deutsche Bank and after Chase, so we're not quite sure where he landed up banking for those few years. But lots of interesting insight there about the Townhouse, and I'll give you one last bit about Lynn Forrester de Rothschild herself. So she actually runs the family fund. It's called the E.L. Rothschild Fund. It's worth tons and tons and tons of money. She wed Sir Evelyn de Rothschild, who's knighted, as you can tell by the Sir, so close to the Queen. And she also was a regular on the Lolita Express. She has lovely large couches, as you can tell. Look at that couch. And she also,
nice couch.
Yeah, it's a very nice couch. And Epstein worked with them a little bit. He was their financial advisor for a while. And at one point, she and Ghislaine also threatened one of the victims of Jeffrey Epstein, Maria Farmer. So, lovely lady, I'm sure.
And I think she also knows Dershowitz really well as well.
She does, yeah. Yeah, she does. She introduced Dershowitz to Epstein, actually.
Yeah, okay.
At a little party up at, I don't know where they have their parties.
I had a little mint in my drink.
Oh.
There's a little fresh mint in my drink, so.
It sounds lovely. It sounds lovely. It sounds like something that Lynn Rothschild might have. So,
yes.
I'll throw it over to Greg. You can talk about anything you want regarding that, or you can talk about Deutsche Bank, which is sort of another nice thing to talk about.
Well, we can pivot too, but I just want to close the circle a little bit on the Ghislaine topic, which is that the people that interact with her have to rely on, in some way, on what the government did and did not do. And the fact that Epstein got that, super light sentence, a slap on the wrist, and Ghislaine was not charged for years and years and years. If you're not somebody that's going to dig deep and do due diligence, you have to look at that and say, well, the government didn't charge them, so everybody else is here. It's probably fine. Unless you really know, like Eric said.
He was charged. She was charged.
I'm talking about her.
Yeah, her particularly. She wasn't.
Obviously, they have issues, but I could see very easily how they could be explained away. My point is not to defend them; it's to blame the government for fucking this up. Okay, that they should have charged both of them and everybody that was involved at the time.
All right, but let's also say
in the 90s. In the 90s?
In 08 when he or 07 when he was,
I think
that was 06. But let's say this. So we're just beginning. We're pretty deep in, actually, but we know that there's more to come with unpacking the money, where the money originally came from, what were the scams around it, all of that. And it's very clear who Epstein was connecting himself with and to when it came to and where he came from with Ghislaine's dad. And it's very clear who Ghislaine's dad was in business with, right? He had companies with gangsters and and he was working for nation states, and it was all arms trafficking.
But if you're
so you have that info. I want to stand up for our justice system a little bit. Is this big failure of justice that they didn't get just thrown in jail for 8,000 years on day one? Yes, I that argument can be made, but we have no idea what these two individuals have, what kind of cards they have to play, right? To sort of say, I'll tell you what, I'll give you, I know who sold arms over here. There's a terror thing happening over here, but this is how dirty they are. They're in there in the underworld in the most insidious, dirty, disgusting ways. And they always have been. They came flying out of that thing, right? They were born into it, both of them. So we're not saying that. We can't say that. But there is afterbirth on these people. They're dripping with it, right? Yeah. So we don't know what they said, and what we have, where we have a responsibility is, it is only very recently that girls are valued. We have not been valued, not in this country. They don't give a shit about us. They never have. We are the throwaway victims, and we always have been. And these guys know that, right? Okay, well, it's your word, little girl, against this very powerful man. No one's going to believe you, right? And so, that's our cultural problem, and we're addressing that, and we're trying to do something about that now, finally, and hopefully this helps. But don't underestimate what these two people came into the world connected to, and what kind of cards they had to play to get out. And still, even though it was the worst jail sentence ever, and it's this non-prosecuted, agreement and all that, it was all this horrible, he's getting such a light touch. He still was convicted. So, and then he got hauled in again. That's how bad it was. That's how bad it was. Because I'm telling you, this guy and Ghislaine have access to information that they could use to trade to get out of anything. So
yes, absolutely. That's what they were doing. They were
we'll
engaged in getting information to get them out of everything.
I don't think it's about work anymore. No one cares anymore.
But we're talking about the elite of the elite. We're not just talking about rich people. We're talking about, Prince Andrew, the Rothschilds. I mean, it doesn't get any higher than that on the scale. Yeah. Bill Clinton. I wouldn't put Donald Trump there, but it is, including Donald Trump. These are a lot of people.
Right.
What are these people doing associating with a human trafficking ring? What is it? What is going on? Why are they part of a human trafficking ring?
Who's taking that?
I don't know the answer. Yeah, go for it.
This is the ugly part of a lot of stories, is that human trafficking is a very profitable enterprise, and it's used in a functional way for cheap labor. In other words, slavery was never really quite abolished. And then you have some very much darker sexual based stuff that's out there too. And in the intelligence world, that's kind of been a known thing for decades. It's not pretty, and it's not one of those things. I think it's known that it's used in compromise, so it's not an open secret for everybody. And it's the center to a lot of keeping power a certain way, because these things, as we can see, as LB just pointed out, you get somebody that's powerful and has all these cards like Jeffrey Epstein, and he still gets pinched. He can't not go down because what he's done is horrible. Now, the true scope of this is yet to be explored, but I think human trafficking overall, when you find out how many fortunes are underpinned by that, how many people are engaged in these kind of crimes, I think it's going to be one of the greatest tragedies we've ever unveiled, and I don't look forward to it, and yet it's a story that has to come out. So
his human trafficking was more about these Russian models, right? And more about, it was that kind of human trafficking.
I mean, he had Polish workers. These people are exploiters. Kind of they exploit human beings. They use human beings for profit. Full stop. Right. So they're going to do the whole thing is, and we can get into that and go down that dark hole and get lost of it. But that was a good pivot to what we're really looking at.
Money
and how we should behave.
I should play the promo first. I was going to play let's play a promo. Okay. All right. Well, you can set it up a little bit, but because I have to find it first.
No, I don't want to. No.
But everyone saw the promo. But
are we gonna go to the promo, or are we gonna do Deutsche first?
Let's do Deutsche.
We could go to either places. Let's talk about Deutsche.
Greg had an amazing article that he wrote today. So good.
Let's talk about Deutsche while I find the promo. Go ahead.
Deutsche's bad. I don't know if you just figured this out, but they Deutsche bad. They there's that great book. What is it called? Now the name escapes me. Which goes into the history of the bank and how they were basically the bank of choice of the Third Reich, involved in all the laundering of money and the stealing of the Jewish fortunes and this, just bad stuff. And they kind of rehabilitated maybe slightly after that. And then the Americans started to come into the investment banking arm of it in the late 90s, early aughts, and brought in their culture. And the best way that the culture can be described is that none of the Americans knew how to pronounce it, and they just called it douche bank because they're douche bros, and they're like dumb. So they were pushing this, and this. But Deutsche has been fined in the last 12 years $11 billion, which is almost $1 billion a year in fines for their fuckery. I mean, they helped exacerbate the crisis of 2008, which almost destroyed the entire global economy. They got fined for that. They were farting around with the LIBOR rates and trying to manipulate that. They got fined for that. They got fined for doing business with countries and people on various U.S. sanctions lists. They got fined for that. And this week they got fined for all the Epstein stuff because a lot of his transactions were suspicious and they did not flag them. They allowed them to happen anyway. So they got fined for that. And you add it all up and it's close to $11 billion. And
Wow.
If you think about
such a large number,
they're willing to pay the goddamn fines. So if they're willing to pay $1 billion a year and just write it off in fines, how much money are they making?
Barely a dent.
How much money are they making from these underworld people? Remember the underworld global economy is what, $2.5 trillion, something like that?
Is that right?
It's
2.5 trillion.
It's larger. It's larger than the gross domestic product of every country other than the United States, Japan, and what's the third country? And China.
Wow.
Every other country larger than every other country on the list.
That's what we can see, Greg. That's what we can see and estimate. It's
and it might be greater. Who the hell knows?
It might be. When you think about the second economy, it's important to remember it's never had a recession. It's never been taxed.
It's recession proof.
It's recession proof. It's tax proof. It's an entire system built on vice.
It's a really
and
violence.
Yeah.
And it takes, people don't realize that economy does not fund anything that you or I need in our lives. It's, we don't get schools and we don't get roads built by any money from
we get
the
social
underworld.
Media.
Yeah, we get people stealing our data.
We get the Patriots and the points.
It's worse than that. It's used when it runs out of money. They get new fictitious money that they launder, that they get out of an official source, and then they launder it back in. And that is all used to make us poorer per hour, to claw back the gains of the 20th century of the working class, right? That was the great economic miracle of the United States, which beat the Soviets. And they're like, we're gonna drag you back down with your own capitalism. And
exactly. And now you're seeing that gap between the super wealthy and the middle class getting wider and wider to the point where it'll never reclaim itself, will never be able to reverse itself. And so we're sort of either heading into this endless widening of the wealth gap, or something big is going to have to happen, like a major revolution or a complete crackdown of this entire underworld system, this entire second economy.
Well,
I mean, there's ways to.
Let's slow it down.
Slow me down.
Let's slow you down.
Yeah.
So let's do the promo.
Dun, 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 dun. All right, here we go. That's your line, LB.
Yeah.
What are we going into? What am I doing? Am I driving?
You're driving. You're driving.
Oh, okay. All right.
Here comes Greg. Oh my God.
That's what the G stands for.
That's no moon.
Ta-da.
Okay, this is fun. We're just having fun. We're having fun, everybody, because that's important, and it's important to be silly and stupid. I
was worried about you, Eric.
When you're old and you can't find your glasses or your headphones, right? Okay, so here's what we've been talking about behind the scenes. Oh, we're all frozen. Okay,
are you?
Okay?
Oh no, I can see you. Keep going.
So, we're kind of at this weird place. And it's a transitional place, I think, for folks like us who all, none of us knew each other or even really of each other until 2017, when we started, I would say around spring of 2017, Eric a little earlier, when everyone just started going, Okay. I have a little bit of information here. I have a little bit of information over here. I had a very specific personal experience. We could all, it was that feeling, the blind people feeling the elephant metaphor. We knew there was something going on here with this presidency that had nothing to do with what we were being sold or told. And some of us who had information were really frustrated, that just the very simple story that actually had already been out there for and every New Yorker was beside themselves, pulling their hair out that, we couldn't, like, no one's talking about this guy in organized crime. I mean, what the fuck? So this is, you've heard us talk about the underworld on this. You've heard us talk about the second economy, which is the underworld, who's in there, mobsters and spies, and they intersect and they do a lot of dirty shit together. And, but we've never had a chance, even though we were all feeling around the elephant and putting the pieces together, and we got the elephant pretty much, we got the picture. We pretty much got the picture. Greg wrote his book. I've done my stuff. Eric keeps going. Dev's had narrative. We've been putting it out there, and there's a bunch of folks that do what we do. They really do. And they help us and they help each other. And we all found each other, and we were like establishing ourselves in this sort of enemy territory of the information war and building this weird force, right? This weird rebellion. And some people are solo flyers. They really can only go alone. And some people like to, watch. And I have to say, we couldn't have even uncovered what we uncovered without, and continue to uncover without people really following and listening. The space that was created on Twitter specifically of followers just listening and liking and asking questions, and not the folks that were bringing more into it, because there were deep research was going on and people were doing an incredible job digging up all these details to put the elephant together. But also, I don't want to ever take anything away, and everybody who just watched that and was there giving us a very powerful space to listen to it, listening to what we were doing. Don't count out those folks. They, all of life happens in listening. It all happens when you listen. And so we needed those listeners, right? So all that's going on. And now we kind of know what it is. We kind of get it. We get the underworld. We know who's in there. We can walk around in the dark and kind of bump around and feel our way around, and okay, that's this thing and that's this thing, and pull it all together. And professional journalists as well in this mix of figuring it out, doing their stories. You have, with Epstein in particular, you've got Julie K. Brown really focusing on those victims, bringing those stories to the forefront. Zev really focusing on the money, really focusing on the financial scams, and the arms dealing, bringing that to the forefront. So there is a collective, because it's even around this one particular story and this one particular case of folks being able to really either collaborate or just, watch what one another are doing and keep going after this. So if you think about it in this metaphor of the Death Star, this is sort of the metaphor we've been talking about behind the scenes, and not stupid old Brad Parscale's Death Star. I don't know what that guy is, so dumb, Mr. Website Builder. Okay, but I'm talking about the actual underworld, right? This thing that when we didn't realize it was a weapon, and we didn't realize that weapon was aimed at us, at democracy, until we could really put the pieces together. And now we're seeing it. We see what this is, and there's a chance for everybody to see what it is. It's like this: the underworld exists in the dark, right? And it uses our light to move its shadows around. Right? That's my saying for it. I think that's the best way to think about it. So it never has to come out of the shadows, but it definitely uses us to do it. Uses our light. So we've gotten close enough to the scene that we realize that's not a fucking moon, man. This thing is out to destroy us. It's now weaponized and out to destroy us. And, we're approaching it. And I feel like there's a lot of people who think that they're Luke Skywalker and they want to be Luke Skywalker. And let me tell you, you're not Luke Skywalker. You're not Luke Skywalker. But we do need that. We have one shot at this. We need the luck of the universe at our fingertips. All the planets have to align. a little fighter plane has to get down in this little thing gully, right? And like, oh my God, the amount of energy it's going to take to just be so focused to get two little phaser things down the hole to blow up the fucking Death Star. That's actually the moment we're in with this Ghislaine case, this Jeffrey Epstein case. This is a turn the floodlights on moment. I'm mixing my metaphors, but who fucking cares? This is a turn the floodlights on moment for everybody to be able to see what's fucking under there and how sinister it is and who's in it and how much money is in it and how it has its hooks into us. This is our chance. This is our chance, not just me doing my research and putting it out there or us being on narrative and Eric trying to, that and Greg writing his articles. This is really a chance for everybody to see what this thing is and how dangerous it is. It's the biggest threat we're facing right now. This case is an opportunity to turn on those floodlights. Audrey Strauss is Luke Skywalker. That's who Luke Skywalker is. And she's got a shot right now. And what I'm watching happening in...
You mean this Audrey Strauss? This Audrey Strauss is Luke.
There she is! That's so great. I love her. Okay, so she's got a shot, right? She's got to take the shot. So this is where Greg's going to come in with who we all are and who we everybody thinks they're this solo player that's going to cut you, right? No, right? And right now I'm watching professional journalists. I'm watching people in the sphere of doing research and trying to put information out there, sharpen their fucking elbows and put razor blades on it and hitting at one another. What the fuck are you doing? Do you have any idea how big this thing is? You're okay. Everyone's going to get their credit. There's going to be no shortage of opportunities for an exclusive or a breaking story or a piece of the puzzle to clunk down for the whole world to see that's going to get you your fucking Pulitzer. Calm the fuck down. This is not when we put razor blades on our elbows and go after each other. This is when we lock elbows and come together, because who are we? Greg, who are we?
We're Han Collective. That's what we are.
Yes.
We're Ewoks.
The what collective?
We're
Han
Solo.
Collective. There is no Han
We're
Solo.
Han Collective.
Stop being so
I thought you said something else. Sorry. It's the Han, as in Han Solo. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
We're not Han Solo. We're Han Collective. And the purpose of this whole enterprise is to get rid of the bad guys. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to blow up the Death Star. We're not trying to take a bow or get any I can only speak for myself, but the reason to get involved with this is, people ask that question, if I was in Germany in 1930s, what would I be like? And the answer is you have to do every goddamn thing you can to make sure that the Nazis don't achieve power. Mm-hmm. And years from now, you want to be able to say what happened when Trump was there and these guys were doing this. And you want to be able to say, I did everything that I could to stop it and to make it go away. And that's what everybody's got to do now, all of us. That's the goal. That's the objective. And if we are not successful in getting rid of Trump and the underlying forces that enable and gird him, it's all for naught. This thing is like a weed that grows in a dandelion, and Trump is only the little flower on the top. And the Republicans in Congress that support him are just a stalk. We got to pull this shit up by the root, or it's just going to keep going back in some other form.
We have a chance to see it. We really have a chance to see it. Now, I just want to say, while we were all talking, Donald Trump just commuted Roger Stone's sentence.
Oh, wow. Well, there you go.
To what? To time served?
Let me pull that up.
So this
he hasn't served any time. I don't know.
But he does end up being convicted, right? That was your point yesterday, Eric Garland.
Oh, he's teasing it.
He's teasing it.
Oh, okay, he hasn't actually.
So that's not a helpful headline, CNN. That's not helpful.
No,
that's not helping us turn on the floodlights.
It's
That's
actually
making us playing around with this shit.
It's a shiny
Stop
It's
it.
normalizing it.
Yeah.
It's normalizing the idea of commuting the sentence
Stop
of your
it.
co-conspirator.
Of your co-conspirators. Thank you.
Yeah.
I have a good headline though. Out of the Northern District of California, Yevgeny Nikulin, Russian hacker, has been convicted guilty on all counts of hacking LinkedIn. And
that's a huge event. That's a huge event.
That's
Speaking
huge.
of torpedoes, those are that trial's been going on for 4 months, and those are torpedoes going Because where's that going to go?
Really interesting. That's a really interesting thing that's happened.
Wait, is he the guy that fainted when they came to arrest him in Prague, or did he vomit? I can't remember.
He
anybody
passed the fuck out.
Yeah.
Oh
no, they went to get him. He drove up to meet his date in this fancy car, and he got out and went into the restaurant, and I don't know who arrested him. Interpol. They were like, "Hi, you're coming with us,"
Interpol.
and he was like, "Ah!" and he just fainted. Ha ha! Fuck you.
I mean, there's a lot going on.
Everyone's tough behind their computer, right? Everyone's tough. Like, I'm breaking into $1 billion.
Yeah.
Digital warrior.
But it does
until the FBI agents show up.
It does tell just going back to the Death Star thing. This force that we're fighting is enormous. We're dealing with something that is, crosses many countries, maybe even all countries, has unlimited, it seems, resources, has its weapons, and they're formidable, all targeted directly at the people of the United States, because that is the country where people have freedom and people have democracy, and it's systematically trying to tear the place apart. And we haven't found all the connecting dots, but it's hard to live through the last 3 years and say that this is all coincidence. I mean, there's been a series of things that have happened to the United States, which could not happen just by coincidence. And they've all been enabled by a very useless president who seems to be, aiding and abetting the enemy at all points, whether it's helping China with coronavirus or helping the Taliban or Russia with the Taliban. There's just never-ending examples of how this president has been helping everybody but the American people. And so
it's not even that. It's even worse with him in that I really don't think anyone can argue that there's not intentionality in slaughtering us. I mean, this is, what are we at with our death count now? This was not.
Well, it's
it could all have that, all of that. It didn't have to go this way. And frankly, if it didn't go this way, it would have benefited him. So there's something going on here where there is a higher priority for this human being than his own political survival, which everyone can, he just, then, because he's not that much of an, I mean, he is an idiot, but he's not that much of an idiot to not be able to stop killing people. So,
intentionally encourage people to face death and to go towards their deaths by forcing them into situations.
Now children, we're going to throw children to the.
Yeah.
So that's not. There's something. I'm sorry. Something's going on here. This human being is destroying us intentionally. There's an intent here. So I think, where is that coming from? What is it? I really can't. I'm sorry. I can't just say. I can't just. I know there's all these diagnoses of him and his conditions that are self-destructive and sadist, and yes, he's all of those things, but there is a foot on the gas thing going on with him that to me those things don't quite explain, because I don't think he's really hurting himself now from being able to stay in and keep his sadism going.
He doesn't think he's going to win anymore. So I think what's really going on is his enablers, whoever they are around the world, are saying, we're going to exact our toll. We're going to take our price regardless. And as we head out the door, we're just going to
kill as many people as possible.
Exactly. Burn down as much as we can.
Burn it down. Yeah. Create a culture war. Get everybody, go for it. Full throttle into the complete destruction of America as much as we can. It's that fucking Death Star. It's pointed at us. It's pointed at us. That's a planet killer, that thing.
It is.
The way that you describe him, not, politically, obviously it would help him if he recovers from this and does a good job, which he's not done. But it's always been that way. Like,
always.
When he started, if he was smart, if they wanted to actually try to hide what they were doing, when he first came into office, the first thing he should have done was do the Ivanka Trump family medical leave thing. He should have come in and been like, hey, Ivanka wants to do this great family medical leave. And if he did it, all the women who were at the march would have been like, wait a minute, maybe he's okay. And it would have confused everybody and it would have thrown them off the scent. Instead, he's just been pure fucking evil and bad the whole way through. He's never made any remote attempts.
Not savvy enough? Do you really think that this family isn't savvy enough? Yeah, they are savvy enough, right? They are. But they're
they are
making an
savvy
active
enough.
choice.
They're
making
throwing
an active
down,
choice.
and they keep going harder and harder and harder and harder and pushing and pushing and pushing because there's been no consequence. There's never any consequence. And,
But
you know,
there are
maybe impeachment was it.
consequences that they will lose power. And, but that's less important than our death and destruction. That's what I'm saying.
The damage that they've caused is going to take, I don't know how long to repair. I mean, just the trust in the institutions, and it's really, I haven't thought about it that much because it's too depressing.
You know, from let's call this group of people the enemies of democracy around the world, and let's say the group of people know that once a democratically elected president with the people's intentions in mind actually gets elected, you would wonder and probably expect that that president is going to turn the American weapons against these enemies of democracy, or at least in some form pressure them to react. So what do you want to do on the way out of this attack that you've performed on America is destroy as much as possible to weaken that country as much as you can. So when the counterattack comes, America is weakened, or at least, you know, so disoriented that it needs to be pulling itself back together in such a big way.
Yeah, and I want to build on both of what all of you are saying. And when Greg says, you know, what would have been much more deadly if they didn't come out with all that Bannon Flynn, like, we're going to get the Joint Chiefs of Staff off the fucking National Security Council. Like, huh? You are? You're going to take the military out of national security? That's neat. If they had come in on like, no, Family Leave Act. They tried to take out the intelligence community and the Joint Chiefs entirely and put on Kushner and Bannon. And that lasted about 31 hours of laughing, and then it was never heard of again.
There are spies in there. Yeah.
And it's like, they're because they were all panicking. Had they thought that out a little bit, they would have smoothed that over, and we'd be in a really terrible situation. But I think less about Trump, because I think he does whatever he's told that week by whoever his handler or handlers are. Let's think about this from the position of Russia, China, Gulf states, who are really behind this attack. They panicked too. And Zev, when you say, hey, let's say they get rid of this Trump guy, aren't they going to turn their, I don't know, fucking nuclear arsenal on and all the offensive cyber weapons?
Okay, everybody. Gotta bring it down.
Why?
Take a breath.
Well, because it doesn't. We don't have to go there.
Because they're also dumb. And we have a strength because it can get into a place of fear and panic, and we're very strong.
Good point.
We are, and our system, as flawed as it is, it's kind of working right now. And so, what can we do to keep pushing it forward? What's our participation in that? What's our responsibility as citizens in continuing to push good guy forward, right? It's like,
well, this is why it's so important that we've had such a breakthrough at the Ghislaine Maxwell case, is because no one would have expected that she would be behind bars tonight or for the last week. In a million years, you would not have, I would not have taken the bet that she'd be behind bars. And there she is. And what you were saying earlier on is that this case illuminates so much. Yes. Once we look into this case, and some of us have looked deeper than others, but we've already got a bit of a view of what's coming. And when you look, it's a whole network of crime and corruption and money laundering and arms dealing and human trafficking and so much money offshore that we can't even dream of that kind of money. There's just billions, if not trillions and trillions of dollars just hiding away offshore that's been sucked out of our economies, that have been sucked away from people and are just being held by wealthy people for who knows what eventuality down the line. Now, we're not going to get that today.
Stolen. The money has been stolen.
Money. Thank you,
It's stolen. It's our fucking money, and they stole it.
Yeah,
that's what they did.
That money could have fed the world.
I don't know what it's going to take for MAGA dipshits to realize that this asshole's just stealing the money.
Right.
But he's stealing your money. Trump is stealing your money. He's stealing it.
The guys who run your pension fund are stealing your money.
Mitch McConnell, too. Mitch McConnell, I had this whole thing. Let's just, even when now this is kind of a little sidebar, but, it was like, wow. And I think back of like, okay, how specific are these sort of semantic active measures, right? How far back can we go with some of the? Ah! I didn't expect to see that. I love it.
You cold? It's Mitch.
Oh, I'm gonna get him. I'm gonna get that guy. I am. I think we gotta. He's vulnerable. I think we could get him out of office.
I think you can. I think we can. I think it could really happen this year.
I think it could happen. Or at least, definitely take the Senate and diminish this horrible human being. But this whole thing about weaponizing that
freeze
sort of operation to make sure we weaponize it, because if you really sit with the word entitlement, what is the word entitlement? It means you're entitled to it. You're entitled to that money. Why? Because it's your fucking money. It's our money. We made it. That's why we're entitled to it. It's not
actually,
we're entitled to it because it's ours. And we gave it to you because you said, here's our social contract, right? Is that your government will work for you. And because it's a great big nation and there's all these, we've got lots of folks we got to take care of, and it's very diverse and all these different needs. And from the perch of the federal government, it can make the decisions because we have all the leaders in there in a collective, and as a collective, as a United States, the federal government can make decisions about where that money is best used, but we also are going to keep care of it for you, and so that when you aren't earning anymore, it's there for you. Or if you fall into a situation where you need it, it's there for you. Or when there's a medical need, it's there for you. Because it's our money. We're entitled to our own goddamn money. And these fuckers stole it. They stole it. They've always been stealing it, but they really stole it with that tax break. That was the greatest transfer of wealth in human history.
They keep doing it over and over again.
These motherfuckers, right?
Yeah. I mean, it happens in all the crashes. It happened every time you've had one of these big corporations crash.
Yeah.
The 2009 crash was an attempt to steal billions. In fact, they did steal billions and billions out of our economy. And it's not just that the billions are disappearing. There's wars that are on top of that. They sell these weapons into the Middle East, ramp up the tensions over there. So we'll end up going to fight wars in Iraq and Syria that we shouldn't be involved in and wouldn't be fighting if it wasn't for them. And we lose thousands and thousands of civilians' lives, whether they're Europeans or Americans, or they're the people of the Middle East who are desperately trying to create their own existence and be self-determining their own existence. Because these wealthy elite, all they could see is the dollars, and they can see that the control that they have over us. And then in 2016, they layer on top of it all this data manipulation, that they basically follow everything we do and know everything about us to the point that they can absolutely manipulate every aspect of our existence, including who we're going to vote for. And so, when you talk about a Death Star, this is it's a monstrous machine. And the Maxwell's case and the Epstein case, because they connect to Donald Trump and because they connect to everything else, allow us a glimpse into that world that we've never seen before. And that's why it is by far
like this.
The crime of the century, without a doubt, if not more than that.
Yeah. So, let's help each other create a path for the people who are actually the ones in the position and tasked to do it, to take the shot. Fire the phasers, turn on the floodlight, whatever metaphor you want. We have an opportunity here. So,
So go Audrey.
Put your ego down.
Exactly.
Everyone.
We're all on Team Audrey right now.
Now, there she is.
There she is. She's amazing.
Wait, so what you're saying is that we should all just be tweeting about whether or not Kanye West is running for president, right? Should we spend time on that? Should we spend an entire podcast about it? Let's have CNN do a Crossfire episode of that, and we could just debate the pros and cons. Wouldn't that be a great idea? Oh, wait, yeah.
I mean, Kanye. I mean, what can you say?
Somebody right now figure out what's going on with the news, because did Donald commute Roger Stone?
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, he's trying.
Now, can he do it? How does he do it, right?
Well,
we don't actually have a situation where he's able to do it because he's a co-conspirator.
Not to go to prison.
Isn't he a co-conspirator?
He has a fancy life. Talk about Ghislaine's life. I mean, Roger. Oh,
But everyone would burn Roger to the ground. They'd love for him to get shanked in prison the first week and shut his face. What they don't want is everybody else realizing, no one's going to get you out of this. And so those guys will start flipping for the FBI. That is what they want to avoid. Sucks to be them.
Sucks. Did we lose Zav? We lost
How can we
Zav.
lose Zev? It's his thing. It says we're live. So.
It's Lord of the Flies. Who's it? Okay, LB's in charge. We know this.
I'm not in charge.
Let's be real.
It is nice to see you guys. This was it was a hard day. We can talk a little personal, It was, just not.
I think I'm back.
Not a
Am
good
I back?
morning. There he is.
You're back.
We weren't doing anything untoward without you.
Oh no, you could have. You should have. That's what.
You should have looked at Periscope. I don't know if anybody's looking at that, but
I was trying to figure out what was going on.
Questions, and we can't figure out how to do two things. I mean, we really can't do two things at once.
Are we supposed to look at Periscope? Is that?
You don't have enough ADHD.
Yeah, somebody should.
Look, if he's being commuted, if the sentence is being commuted, I think it's going to be challenged later on because he's a co-conspirator of the president, and therefore, how does he get to do that? How do you pardon a co-conspirator? It's not a pardon.
I mean, that's why he wants to go for the commutation.
Oh, I see.
Right, so it's not like they don't want Roger to accept any guilt. They're trying to sort of say he's already paid the price for his crimes.
Right.
But if he were to acknowledge that, and then he did something, or someone said something today. I think it was Roger today or yesterday about, President Trump's going to take care of me because I've been quiet. Because I didn't rat on him. It's like, are there things to rat on, Roger?
Meanwhile, Michael Cohen is in.
Are you saying that he's like in there? What are you doing?
But Michael Cohen is back in jail for because he is ratting on the president. So it's a very clear message to everybody about what's going on.
Yeah.
If you don't.
So Trump's not all powerful? Oh, okay.
Yeah, apparently not. I'm betting that the day he gets out of office, he is going to be indicted and thrown behind bars.
Can we talk about that for 1 second?
Yeah.
Because I feel like the most dangerous time is going to be between Election Day and January 20th. And I feel like once he knows that he's out, once he knows he's lost and there's nothing he can do to save himself, the chances of him actually defecting to some foreign country go up, right? I mean, if I'm him, I'm thinking, okay, my options are I can either stay here and be in court or go to jail, or I can use the last 2 months of my presidency to escape. And I'll just have like some State Department visit in UAE or Saudi Arabia or Russia, and I just won't come home.
I mean, that's very possible. That's very possible.
It's not.
He's gonna. We've been talking about him.
It's a greater than zero chance.
The Secret Service measures where he is by the micro inch.
This is
but what if he resigns?
Why he was freaked out about them.
He could go to Moscow, do a summit, and then resign. And then what? I mean, he's ultimately.
He certainly could. I can't imagine he would go to Russia. I think he'd go to Saudi Arabia or somewhere.
Isn't the worst?
UAE. He'd go live with Eric Prince.
The worst.
Go live with Eric Prince.
The much worse risk is that between that election day and his inauguration or the inauguration of the next president, is that they could incite a lot of violence. I mean, they could really push the button, and they could cause a lot of chaos because they have so many operatives here. We're talking about many very, really wealthy and powerful countries that are incentivized to do as much damage as possible, and they will try to do it because there's not a lot of people, trying to stop them right now. That might change in January, but any sort of military confrontation with the people or any sort of excuse to introduce martial law could postpone the inauguration, could challenge the election results, could do all sorts of things, and I think that's also a likely possibility. But hopefully,
it's also. But some of this stuff requires a certain level of energy and thoughtfulness and whatever you want to call it that he does not currently possess. I mean, all he does is sit around and tweet and watch Fox, I think, and golf. I mean, does he do anything? I think I read a report. No. That's all he does. So in order to be a real, authoritarian strongman, you have to at least do strongman stuff. And
he doesn't have to do it. He's got his, he's got the puppet masters pulling all the strings. He just has to react.
At a
Bar
certain
Team
point, though, the
6.
puppet masters are going to realize that it's not. He's a sunk asset.
Right.
He's already a
That's
sunk
right.
asset. So
That's right.
how quickly are they going to jettison him? The key is going to be Fox News.
Mhm.
When Sean Hannity and Tucker Carlson turn on him, then it's over. They haven't done it yet, but they have to at some point, right?
Well,
Dan Coulter was backing up Mitch McConnell's Democratic rival today. They know it is fucking over. The game's done. They know.
they do know, but they can still cause damage out of the, on the way out.
Oh, sure.
And he is going to
Sure.
try to strike a deal. I mean,
You
that's
guys, what? I mean, there's a pandemic. It's insane.
Yeah.
It's so frightening.
especially where you are.
You know, people are really scared. We don't know if we're going to be able to hold our family members again. You know,
Yes.
that's what they're doing. That's
Yeah.
what they're doing, and we can't ever forget that. We can't ever forget any of these enablers.
No.
Ever.
There could be no
We have to
no quarter, no
prosecute
mercy.
every single crime. We have to we've already lifted all these rocks. Imagine the rocks, all this criminality and all this coordination and all this enabling. Imagine the rocks we haven't.
Yeah, I think there's so much.
We haven't lifted. And you know, I don't know. It's going to be years. It's going to be years of holding these people to account. I do really appreciate the Lincoln Project and that ad they did of like, remember these people's names. And, you know, we have to. We know who they are. And some of them came in so late and like a Stefanik, right? That, don't even get me started on that one, right? And she hitches her, hey, you're going to hitch yourself to this wagon now? Like, maybe you could have done this in 2015 or 2016 and everyone would have understood. But now, all the way in, we're all the way through this. And the person you're hitching yourself to is Jim Jordan. You're hitching yourself to Jim Jordan, who we know enabled talk about industrial scale molestation of students in his care. He enabled that. He enabled that doctor.
Are we sure that Stefanik is not Devin Nunes in drag? Because I think that I think that.
I don't know. I know she's a carpetbagger. And you know, I know that
They look like they could be brother and sister.
Greg, you know too. You know the good people of her district. Really good people. Truly. This isn't you know, and so who's getting that message out? Because it's very difficult to tell what kind of bubbles people are in because everything's so fragmented and insular.
Well, the bubbles,
so we need stuff that goes wide that people can see outside of their bubble, especially on, you know, those kinds of folk, right? Especially on the Stefanics of the world.
It's so important that we, you know, focus our energy on getting this money, because for those of us who've had a peek at what this all looks like, it's a terrifying amount of money that should be being spent on people, and these guys are just building their wealth and you know, whatever the word is, aggrandizing themselves to the point where they are just, you know, creating this sort of faux monarchy around the world, and this mobligarch that is just must be torn down. We cannot have that system in place in a free and democratic United States. If other countries want to do it, fine. But, you know, we need to get our money back. We need to get our kids' futures back, because that's what's being spent. That's what all this debt and deficit is being spent on.
This is where I want people to feel it's not about being hopeful and in denial. It's about looking at, are there things that are working to get that money, right? Are there things happening where we have access to some of that money? They just shut down all those Jersey offshores, right? For the UK to go in and get that money, that's big.
It's big.
There's a lot of money there. That's where it all started. And then there's oh God, I forgot it now. But there's another thing where there's a real opportunity to get money. To get your hands back in, to get, you know, the good guys get back in and sign it.
The Magnitsky Act is being enforced now.
The China.
Yeah.
For the Uyghurs,
Yeah. So, I mean, we're going to see a lot of that, which is great. We need to see much more of that, because, you know, we need to be aggressive on getting that money back, because it can't stop with Donald Trump, and it won't stop if all we do is get rid of Donald Trump. We need to keep going.
Fear.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the fear, that they're not good. That Trump's gone, Biden's there. Okay, we're just going to now continue to do our shit, and it can't be that. What I would like to see is a tribunal where he names another special prosecutor who's a Democrat and a woman and a badass, and just says, "Here, arrest all the fuckers, the fucketeers." Mm-hmm. Sorry, and gives them a budget and a broad mandate, and then steps aside and lets them. So it's not connected with the administration; it's an independent entity that's our Death Star of good. Mm-hmm. You know,
in South Africa,
the Life Star. I don't know.
Yeah, Sally Yates is a good idea, actually. In South Africa, we did something called the Truth and Reconciliation Committee, which is Desmond Tutu held this thing, and everyone could just go and say what they did. They could confess their crimes. Some people did get prosecuted, but mostly people just, they acknowledged what they did and moved on. And it was a way of sort of clearing the decks. I don't think that is going to do it for America. I think there's a lot of money that's been stolen and needs to be returned, and a lot of equality that needs to be reinstated. But it's a very good idea. It's a very good idea to reheal the country.
There's a lot of treason.
A little bit of treason going on as well, yeah. But
treason.
Bringing people together and exchanging the reality of what happened and understanding each other's reality as well. You need that in order to build a future together, because we're still going to be in the same country. We're still going to have each other here. We can't just throw everybody in jail. We're going to have to throw some in jail, and the rest of us are going to have to keep getting along. So what does that look like? How does that look? And how do we develop a conversation in this country which talks about what we expect going on beyond Trump? I mean, beyond the system, what does it look like? Does it look like the progressive left? Does it look like a moderate middle? What does it look like? Because that's really the kind of stuff we're going to have to try and figure out, I think. Maybe we can leave it there, because it seems like it's almost the end of the show.
Okay.
Good rant. Good.
That was a hopeful note.
I made it.
You did make it. You made it on the air. Everyone knows what you look like, which is great. And you look fantastic. It was so nice to see you guys again. What a nice show. Interesting times we're living. I'll be back Tuesday, I think, because that's when the hearing is with Ghislaine. So there'll be some interesting stuff there. Watch for that news. And then the 14th is Tuesday, right? That's the Bastille Day. So we'll have Mary Trump's book. And you mentioned something else. Well, it was going to be Roger Stone, but it's not.
Well, it was going to be Roger Stone, but we'll have to see.
Yeah, we'll have to see that.
We're commuting a sentence the man hasn't even
confessed yet. Well,
I mean, he's going to have to check into prison, right?
I think so.
I don't know.
I think so.
I don't know.
Well, thanks for joining us on Narrative. We'll see you again next week. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye, guys. Thanks,
Bye.
Support Narrative's independent journalism at patreon.com/narrative, and check out our podcast wherever you get your podcasts, and don't forget to subscribe and download.